All right, meanwhile, the Nobel Peace Prize will be announced in Oslo today. The winner will win a prize worth 9 million Swedish crowns. Now, there are about 301 candidates for the Nobel Peace Prize for the year 2019, out of which 223 are individuals and about 78 are said to be organizations. Now, here are some of the top contenders for the coveted prize. Now, climate activist Greta Thunberg is said to be one of the few people whose nomination has become known before the Nobel ceremony. The prize experts consider her to be the favorite to win the award this year. The 16-year-old would become the youngest recipient of the award if she indeed goes on to become the winner this year. She would also be the first one to win the prize for environmental work since Al Gore. Now, next up is, of course, the United Nations Refugee Agency. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, or the UNHCR, was set up in 1950 and has already won the Nobel Peace Prize twice in the years 1954 and then again in the year 1981. The agency has been particularly active in places such as Yemen, where it has provided aid during a very acute and a severe humanitarian crisis that's been caused due to a Saudi-led war on Yemen. The world-renowned British naturalist Sir David Attenborough is being tipped as a possible contender as well for the 2019 Nobel Peace Prize. Attenborough is considered to be one of the world's most influential wildlife broadcasters. He's become increasingly outspoken about the risks posed by the climate crisis in recent years. Now, the Venezuelan opposition leader and also the self-declared interim president Juan Guaido, who's been propped up by the United States, is also said to be one of the possible contenders for the 2019 Nobel Peace Prize. Now, in a matter of months, Juan Guaido has gone from a virtual nobody in Venezuelan politics to the country's most watched figure, largely because of the backing that he's got from the United States. Now, the two journalists who've been jailed in Myanmar, who were convicted for breaking the Official Secrets Act, are also on the list. They're in fact exposed the atrocities and the excesses caused by the Myanmarese forces on the Rohingyas. Now, 33-year-old Walon and 29-year-old Kwa So Oo had been convicted in September last year and had been sentenced to 7 years in prison in a case that had raised questions about Myanmar's progress towards democracy. And also one very interesting possible nomination, is that of Amal Clooney, a barrister at Doughty Street Chambers who specializes in international law and human rights, who's said to be one amongst the possible contenders for this year's Nobel Peace Prize. Now, Amal is of Lebanese-British descent and is married to Hollywood actor George Clooney. Now, another possible contender is Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, and he also is being billed as someone who could win the prize this year for having brokered a peace deal between Ethiopia and Eritrea after 20 years of fighting. Now, Ahmed took office in April 2018 and released political prisoners before finalizing an agreement with the Eritrean leaders. And also one of the other possible contenders is New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, who has set an example of how to lead a country out of the trauma of a horrendous terror attack. After the Christchurch terror attack, Jacinda Ardern was swift in introducing stringent gun control measures to ensure that such attacks are not repeated in her country. And also one of the other contenders is Raoni Metiktaia, is a Brazilian indigenous leader who has spent most of his life campaigning for the Amazon rainforests. At the G7 summit in August, Metiktaia spoke about the raging wildfires in the country and had some pretty sharp words about President Jair Bolsonaro's environmental policies, which have been blamed for the forest fires in Amazon. All right, now this is, of course, some politicians don't want to get into, but the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who had a pretty long day at the office, and he has now set a world record for having held a press conference, believe it or not, for well over 12 hours straight. Now, after a record number of hours of the televised news conference, Volodymyr Zelensky earned a title of the world record holder for the longest ever press conference held by the head of a state. The representatives of Ukraine's National Register of Records presented Volodymyr Zelensky with an award and said that Zelensky had broken the previous record by 45 minutes. In 2017, the Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko had held a press conference that had lasted for 7 hours and 21 minutes. Now, the press marathon started at 10 o'clock in the morning local time and was extended to last maybe for up to 10 hours. Now, this, of course, comes in the backdrop of US President Donald Trump's impeachment row that is on the peak in the United States. It's being alleged that on the 25th of July, Donald Trump, in a phone call with the Ukrainian president, had pressed Volodymyr Zelensky to launch an investigation into Joe Biden's business dealings. Zelensky said that he wasn't sure if his aide, Andriy Yermak, will testify in the United States. Meanwhile, Zelensky continues to defend his stance that Donald Trump did not blackmail him. However, the transcript of the call indicates otherwise.
Я не порушував жодного закону в Україні, я не порушував міжнародного законодавства. Я, як президент України, не розумію, про що я повинен свідчити в іншій країні. І чому я повинен своїми свідченнями, так чи інше, чому мене повинні використовувати на вплив до рішення і до результатів майбутніх виборів. Мені це не зрозуміло, і я не впевнений, що я скажу своєму помічнику свідчити там. Добре, я можу звільнити помічника, тоді я не маю відповідальності, чи будь-якого з моєї команди, якщо ця людина хоче, чи, будь ласка, why not, please. We are too democratic and we are very open.